whether you're in a very technical field or whether you're in a very interpersonal field, these interpersonal and intrapersonal skills are really, really important. They make a huge difference both in your professional life, but also, and I would say especially, in your personal life. And I have found these skills to be most relevant when I became a dad.
Yeah.
Because up till then, I thought that I was quite under control. I understood my emotional state. I could regulate myself. I didn't have many outbursts. And then I had a kid. And there is something about a crying child that, shakes something deep to your core. For some people, it manifests in compassion and, oh, you poor thing, let me help you. It was at 3 a.m. in the morning going, would you please stop? Could you just let me sleep? I have never, snapped or had emotional meltdowns so many times as I did in the first few years of my child's life.
Yeah. You're with Doug and you're on Sunshine. And do you know what I just realised? I didn't put your slot in, mate. The positive difference.
That's all right. That's okay.
That's all right. That's all right. Hey, we have Dan Tan from The Positive Difference in the house. And I always love our conversations, my friend. And today, when we've spoken in the past, we've been talking about the DISC profiles, or we've been talking about how the different personality types work together and how they apply to us. Yep. Today, we're going to take a shift and we're going to start to talk about emotional intelligence.
Yes.
Now, I think this is an important topic because we're always, what's your IQ and your intelligence level. But I think sometimes we forget about the emotional intelligence side of it.
Yeah.
And I think the emotional intelligence side of it is also almost, for me, more important than the how smart am I. It's like how do I relate to people is probably more important from my perspective. Yeah. So can you give me a quick breakdown of emotional intelligence?
Sure, no problems. Okay. So if I were to describe emotional intelligence maybe to a 5-year-old like my daughter, emotional intelligence is being smart about your feelings. If I were to talk to someone a little bit older, I would say, well, emotional intelligence is the ability to understand, to manage, and to harness both the emotional state of yourself and of other people. It's an area that very often we don't spend time learning and thinking about, but it is so important in every aspect of life. And for the family that don't know my background, I actually come from a very technical background. I studied electronic engineering and computer sciences. I've spent 15 years in the tech industry, doing everything from software development through to sales, executive, and everything in between. And what I have found, whether you're in a very technical field or whether you're in a very interpersonal field, these interpersonal and intrapersonal skills are really, really important. They make a huge difference both in your professional life, but also, and I would say especially, in your personal life. And I have found these skills to be most relevant when I became a dad.
Yeah.
Because you know what? Up till then, I thought that I was quite under control. I understood my emotional state. I could regulate myself. I didn't have many outbursts. And then I had a kid. And my goodness, there is something about a crying child that, shakes something deep to your core. And so for some people, it manifests in compassion and, oh, you poor thing, let me help you. For me, it didn't. For me, it was at 3 a.m. in the morning going, would you please stop? Could you just let me sleep? I have never, snapped or had emotional meltdowns so many times as I did in the first few years of my child's life. Yeah. And so I had to start practicing all these things that I've been teaching. How do you understand how you feel? How do you regulate how you feel? How do you, express it in a way that is healthy, not just for yourself, but also for my child who is watching every single thing I do. So for the family out there, whether it's in your professional life or in your personal life, emotional intelligence is so important.
Oh, very much so, very much so. I love that story about being a father and trying to bring that emotion and compassion to your daughter. Because I think that's a real thing for us. Sometimes we don't actually stop to think about how our reactions affect other people in even as adults. Like
Yes.
we can do those little things, like we can snap at someone
Yep.
and not realize the consequences of that in a
Yes.
relationship. Like for that is emotional intelligence.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And especially if you have, those emotional outbursts. Not even the big ones. Sometimes it's the snide remarks.
Yes.
That little passive aggressiveness. That undercurrents of I don't quite like you, and I'm trying to undermine what you're doing. Those things have long-term consequences, and I know very often we talk about the impacts on relationships, but there are workplace relationships as well. In fact. I actually just recently did a talk to a group of very technical people on artificial intelligence versus emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
And what I was saying is that, hey, it doesn't matter how technical you are, you're always dealing with people. You're always dealing with other people, whether they be your bosses, your colleagues, your vendors, your suppliers, your clients, but you're also always dealing with yourself.
Yeah.
You're always going to have to manage your own stress, your own anxiety, your own worries, all that kind of stuff. And that's where emotional intelligence really comes into play.
How does emotional intelligence play out in our everyday life?
Yes.
And what are maybe maybe it's just a surface level conversation for today, just so we hit the highlight points. How can we continue to develop that in our life?
Yeah, sure. Maybe what I'll do is I will describe emotional intelligence in a more of a broken down way.
Yep.
So structure it a little bit, and then that can kind of form our conversation both today and throughout the next few weeks.
Yeah.
So the idea of emotional intelligence was actually popularized back in the 1990s by a guy named Daniel Goleman. And he literally wrote the book, Emotional Intelligence. His book is quite a technical book because he was trying to promote this idea that your long-term welfare and success was a lot more to do with your EI, your emotional intelligence, as opposed to your IQ, the ability to problem solve and to understand cognitive things. And up to that point, and even in your introduction, people thought that your level of IQ, that was the thing that made you successful, made you happy. Daniel in his book was saying, well, actually, it's got a lot more to do with this EQ thing, and that's where he described it. And the way he structured it was 5 domains of emotional intelligence that you could build over time, and each domain kind of builds on top of each other. And if you want to grow in your emotional intelligence, what you want to do is you want to think, okay, all right, how do I build each of these domains in my life and build it upwards? So for the family, I want you to think of a pyramid, right? A pyramid that has got 5 levels. I think earlier you were talking about food, right? So think about like a food pyramid. So think about a food pyramid or a cake, maybe a 5-layer cake, but in a pyramid structure. Each layer builds on top of each other. And so if you want to get to higher levels of emotional intelligence, you've got to go and build those foundational levels first, or else it's going to collapse. So the 5 domains that he talked about were firstly self-awareness, self-management, motivation, empathy, and social skills. So the 5 domains. So let's go through that one more time. So self-awareness is about understanding myself. Right? How do I feel in a certain situation? What are the things that are making me feel a certain way? And can I put a word to that feeling? If you don't do that, it becomes very ethereal. It's like kind of grasping at smoke. You can't really get a hold of it. But once you can say, all right, this is how I feel, and put a label on it, suddenly you've got a handle to hold on to it.
Okay.
Right? That's the first foundational level.
Yep.
The level above that is self-management. Like, now that I know how I feel, what can I do about it? How do I manage it in a way that's productive? Earlier we were talking about these emotional outbursts, especially when it comes to parenting young children.
Yes.
Right? You may feel certain things. I may feel frustrated that I've been woken up at 3 a.m. for the past 3 weeks of my life. I may feel anxiety as I try to think about how to decide on, how to deal with the sickness that she's going through. I may feel frustration because different people are giving me contradictory advice.
Yeah.
All of those are emotions and they're valid. But how do I express them in a way that's constructive, both for myself, for my spouse, and for my child?
Yeah.
So that's self-management. The third level is motivation, because emotions are actually a fuel source. right? And you can actually harness them to propel you towards a goal. And that's motivation. How do you motivate yourself towards something you want to achieve?
Okay.
So that's a foundation of 3 levels. You want to hit the last 2 just really quickly, or do we have time?
Really quick. If we can nail it in 1 minute, let's do it.
Sure. So level 4 is empathy. All right. Empathy is a heart-to-heart connection with someone else. It's understanding fully where they are, what they're going through, but also how they are feeling. All right? A deep, deep level connection. And the final level is social skills. How do we use everything that we've learned to build deeper relationships, to lead more effectively, to have better teamwork, to resolve conflicts? How do we take all these emotional intelligence concepts and apply it in practical life? So those are those 5 domains of emotional intelligence.
Fantastic. And I love the idea that the moment we can name something and give it a shape or a form, that we've got a base to build upon. A couple of messages have come through. One says, what a fantastic topic. It needs to be spoken about. Emotional intelligence is so important. Love it. And another one here from Vicky. I can so relate with Dan. I have a 13-year-old and a 1-year-old. My son's talent is crying. Oh my goodness. When he cries, he cries. It's like a switch flicks and I struggle to be calm. My 13-year-old is unpredictable, snap happy, and upset all in the space of 1 minute. It's difficult as a parent. No time for yourself. Hey, Vicky, we feel for you. I know that Dan, can totally relate.
Oh, yes,
so
definitely.
Your daughter's now 5.
She's 5 now.
Yeah.
She's 5 now. Yeah. So less crying, but she still has tantrums. And, she's got sass. I tell you. Wow. I don't think we taught her that. I don't know where she picked that up from.
No, it comes from the mother side of the family.
Obviously.
Of course. Anyway, we're talking emotional intelligence. If we were going to land this puppy, what are some of the tips that you would give the Sunshine family that are listening at the moment, and to say, hey, here's something you can do in your life to develop emotional intelligence or to become more aware?
Sure. All right. Maybe the first thing I'll do, and maybe this is a segue a little bit from Vicky's message. I think the important thing, especially if you're a parent, especially I want to talk to the parents out there. I know you love your kids. I know they are your world. I know it's difficult being, but I would encourage you to also put a priority on your own emotional health. Depending on your personality type, depending on your circumstances, find some time in your day. It might be 10 minutes, it might be half an hour, hand the kids over to your partner and spend some time doing your own thing, getting rejuvenated. Maybe that's going out and having a coffee. Maybe that's sitting down and doing a puzzle. Maybe for me, it's playing computer games. But find something where you get rejuvenated. Right? Because you can't continue giving out of an empty bucket. That's part of emotional intelligence as well. You need to know what are your own limits, because when those limits get pushed, it's not just one thing. It's the kids are crying. It's the stove is burning. It's someone's dropped chocolate milk on the floor. It's the cat has pooped on the carpet. It's all these things that accumulate. And then it's just one small thing. It's that straw that breaks the camel's back that causes you to implode or explode. And those kind of reactions can be really destructive. Those are the things that leave scars in relationships. So you want to be fully aware of what is my emotional state. And maybe next week we'll talk more about self-awareness, but even on a scale of 0 to 10, all right, 10, I'm absolutely great. I've had a full night's sleep. The sun is shining. I'm energized. I'm pumped. Let's take on this day. Down to 0, which is, oh my goodness, I'm going to break down. All right. Where are you right now? Are you a 3? Are you a 5? Are you a 7? Or are you a 1? If you are near that low end of that boundary, do something about it. The kids can manage themselves for 10 minutes. Close the door and have some space for yourself. Take care of your own emotional health, because when you are emotionally healthy, you are more equipped and prepared to then give into other people's lives. And those people might be your kids, those people might be your spouse, those people might be your colleagues, your clients. You need to start with yourself. And you need to start by understanding where you're at. whatever time of day it is.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the self-awareness of time of day, season of life, what's going on for you.
Yeah.
I know my own family life has been quite hectic lately with a whole lot of stuff that's been going on in the background. And, you know, my wife's in Melbourne now and we're looking after the dog and we're supporting family and we're doing all those things. But even in amongst that, you got to go, hey, you know what? I've got lots of energy today. I'm on the ball and I'm ready to do this. And other days you're going, I'm like just above breaking and I'm just going to keep things to a minimum because I need to know where I am. But that self-awareness is going to shape how I have those relationships, how I have those conversations, how I write my text messages.
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah.
So I totally get it. Just as we quickly wrap up, mate, I just want to say thank you for you break things down so easily and so beautifully and simply for us to be able to grasp. And I'm looking forward to our next conversation. We're going to dive into some more emotional intelligence. And at some point in the future, let's talk about emotional intelligence and AI, because I reckon that's going to be a cracker of a topic we need to get our head around. But Dan, thank you so much. Dan is from The Positive Difference, and we'll have you back in a couple of weeks and we'll continue the conversation.
Looking forward to it.
You're with Doug and you're on Sunshine. This was recorded as part of Table Talk on Sunshine. If you want to catch up with the full episode of this, go to sunshine.com.au and look up Table Talk. You'll be able to find it there. Can I highly recommend you go and get the Sunshine app, put it on your phone. You can listen to us live anywhere, broadcasting hope across the world. If you want to listen to our long form podcast, go to your favorite streaming service. You'll find it there, or go to the Sunshine app, download it. You'll get it all there. You're with Doug, you're on Sunshine.